Hello and welcome to another episode of Edit and Chill. My name is Ray Roberts and today we're going to be talking a little bit about how to deal with harsh sunlight. How to shoot in harsh lighting. All the photographers say it's so much easier to shoot when it's cloudy. I love overcast weather, but I just deal with it. You know, it's not worth whinging about, and personally I think you can get some really nice results from that bright summery sun that we only see a few days a year in the UK. But yeah, before I begin, I would just like to give a little shout out to Makungu Shots over on Instagram. I really like his portraiture. Some of it's really natural. He shot with my friend Kaimi recently, who I named my bird after. Yeah, she's a nice friend of mine, and he shot with her, and he shot with many other people, and his work is really nice. So go check him out and tell him I sent you. So I've got a few shots from a few different shoots. I say different, they're all in a park, which tends to be where I like to shoot the most. I just like natural settings, and my phone should be on silent. I just like natural settings. Parks are really nice because they're often quite quiet and you don't get an audience, and it doesn't put your subject under any kind of pressure. It's nice. You get a lot of different kind of lighting scenarios when you go to a park or a forest. You get places where they're wide open. You get tall grass, trees, the komorebi effect, which you get from leaves. Komorebi is one of my favourite words. We don't have a literal translation for it in English, but it's a Japanese word which describes the light that glistens through the leaves and the trees. You know what I mean. It's a really nice word. I really like it. Komorebi, which is not necessarily the effect on this photo, but more on this photo. It describes this effect. I think it more describes it when it's in motion, that kind of shimmering that you get, but either way, it's a really nice word. Anyway, yeah, so I quite like shooting in parks, preferably parks that are fairly quiet. This first park here is Victoria Park, which is literally the closest park to my house. It's quite, quite a central city park. It's quite modern, it's fairly flat ground and clean, like well kept. But you get nice little spots like this that I quite like. And this is my friend Josie. And what are we gonna do here? So one thing that I did here, because the sun was very bright, there is not a cloud in the sky, I think, during this day. So we took undercover under some trees, and that gives you some really nice little bokeh balls in the background from all the light that's shimmering through the trees. And if it was an overcast day, I wouldn't have this nice little highlight. Arguably, it would have been nicer if there was, a little bit of fill hitting her face on this side. But you can't win them all. So I'm probably gonna just start by upping the exposure here, so we have something to work with. And Ektar, I think, works quite well for a lot of bright, contrasty shots. It just makes the skin tone pop, which is kind of what we want here. I just did another video about shooting, a little photo shoot behind the scenes video about shooting Ektar, so go a little, just wanted to give that a little plug. Anyway, without plugging any more previous videos of mine, yeah. So, as I said at the beginning of this video, I would like to talk about shooting, even though I'm editing. But I really hate the mentality of fixing it in post. I think that's one of the worst mentalities you can have when it comes to, well, almost anything. With the digital age of art, all digital art forms kind of inhibit that mentality of we can fix it later, we can edit that out, you can Photoshop that, right? It's fine. Like obviously I do a lot of video work, and the amount of times I have a client say, oh, how hard would it be to Photoshop, you know, that spot in my face out? And I'm just like, well, what are you talking about? There's video. That's video. That's extremely difficult. I'd have to go frame by frame and remove it. There's no like quick one button thing. That's like a full day's work just to remove a little spot. And it probably won't look that great if it's just me doing it, let's face it, but it's fine. No, it's not fine. What am I saying? So yeah, don't fix it in post. I don't like to crop too much either, as a lot of you know. If I want to crop, I'll just do it when I'm taking the photo. Just get closer or further back. Just don't, you know. I personally don't like to. I try to never press the shutter on my camera until I'm happy with the photo. I try to ask myself, is this worth? Is it worth it? Am I going to use this? Is she going to use this? Is anyone going to want to use this photo? Before I even push the button. And before I push the button, I'm checking a lot of different things. Composition, framing, focus, exposure. Because I just don't want to waste time. I don't want to waste time. I don't want to, you know, rely too much on fixing it in the edit. But at the same time, what was I going to say? Just lost my train of thought. Anyway, lesson of this video is shoot for the edit. And basically, I'm wording this really great. Just try to get it the best you can while shooting, and then the edit should be minimal. Like, you shouldn't have to do too much to make it look great. You shouldn't have to be doing a lot of masks. I know I did a little dodge here, just to increase the exposure on her face, but you shouldn't be doing that all the time. You shouldn't be doing that unless it's your style. But for me personally, I'm not for naturalistic portraits. I don't really want to. You know, it's really easy to make this look over-edited. Like, I can really up the shadows if I want to, and, you know, clarity, vibrance, blah, 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 and it doesn't look real anymore. And that's not what I'm into. I'm into it looking fairly realistic. Every now and again I get a photographer telling me that my style of portraiture looks a lot like a film. And I think that's because a lot of films are trying to replicate reality. Like, you never see these funky, like, Instagram-esque looks when you're watching a feature film. Even the most extreme visual, like aggressive grades, color grades that you see on a feature film is like nothing in comparison to some of the looks you get, you know, from photographers. Because I think you can be a lot more aggressive in a still image, but once you see it in motion, it starts to feel a little bit surreal, and it can detach you a lot more from the story. But it's just maybe it's because of my my background in film, and it's. Anyway, I'm going to edit this photo because I've been talking for about 10 minutes now, and I've not really done too much. So yeah, I'm just going to up the vibrance. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. One thing that I'm renowned for not really liking is how green contrasts. Despite liking the shoot in nature a lot, I don't like how green looks too much on photo, so I like to bring it down a tad. Just in the hue, just bring it a bit closer to the orangey red. Arguably it makes it pop a little bit less. Let me just show you before and after. So we have before, before, after. It makes it pop a little bit less. But I don't know, I just think it's a little bit more subtle on the eyes. There you go, bring a little bit more green back. Makes it feel slightly vintagey. Like, it feels like a, you know, a little bit 1970s, you know what I mean? I don't know what I mean. I just talk trash and then upload it onto the internet. And yeah, again, I just like to be subtle with everything, so I'm just gonna, with all my editing, I like to be subtle. When I first started editing, I used to do so much. I used to you know, smooth up people's skin, over sharpen everything, like the entire image. Now I selective sharpen, and only by a little bit. I say a little bit, it says 55 here, but that's a little bit. I used to go all the way, like I sharpen it all the way. And I used to add a little bit of clarity and dodge and burn every single photo I did. And it looked really over-edited. Another thing I like to value now, which I didn't, was just how I deal with highlights, which is quite relevant to what I want this video to be about, which is shooting in harsh sun. I used to really have a lot of contrast. So something like that I would look at and be happy with, and I'm not saying that's wrong, but for me personally, I like just having, you know, being able to see the details in the shadows and in the highlights, especially on skin, because you kind of lose that. And to me, looks like this is just a bit over-edited. If you go back to my work from maybe even 2 years ago, you can see that I did edit a lot more like that. It was kind of because I was still fairly new to photo editing, and you know, just because I suddenly knew how to do all of these things, I was excited to use them. But just because you know doesn't mean you should. So I might try something a bit different here. Actually, let's see what Ektar looks like. Okay, I'm liking Ektar a little bit more. Again, this is just a little bit more of a aggressive look. I might roll with it, just see where we get. So first of all, I'm not enjoying how bluey these greens in the back are. It's almost quite dark. So yeah, this Komorebi effect, really love that word, it's one of my favorite words, is really nice, but really difficult to work with. I don't know how many photos we took under this tree, because this light is moving and shimmering on her face. And you know, the moment before I press the shutter button to the point I take the shot, that light can be completely different. So what I'm aiming for is that the key features on her face are not covered. And it might look really good in real life, but you have to bear in mind you're dealing with the dynamic range of a camera. So it might not look too great when you view it back on an 8-bit monitor. So what I quite like here is how delicate it is on her face. There's no really harsh shadows. This here is a harsh shadow. You see that really defined edge and how much darker that is compared to the light area? I'm glad there's none of that on her face. So it's very delicate. But just because there's more light around her eye, her nose and her lips, it just draws attention to that, but kind of subtly. I hesitate to say subtly because it isn't. You can tell there's shadows on her face, but it's a lot more subtle than like this shadow here. And yeah, I'm kind of happy with this already. I might, yeah, let's warm it up just a tad. Maybe, yeah, it's summer. Actually, I might see what that looks like if I just make it a bit brighter and split toning. Okay, I'll go with split toning instead. And again, just do a rough little sharpen, just to draw your attention to it, but not too much. So I don't want it to look like it's over edited. What do I want to do here? Leave that as it is. Let's just check the crop. 4x5 is what Instagram sees as portrait. So it's something I have to bear in mind because most of my work ends up on Instagram. I might crop in slightly just so this eye is central. I really like, this is kind of what I follow with a lot of portraits, but I don't really bear it in mind too. Like I don't follow it too strictly, but having the main eye, the eye that your eye is drawn to when you look at the image, be center, or at least close to the center line, is something I think is fairly important, because your eye is drawn to the center of the image. So if your light is also directing you to the center of the image, if there are lines in the image that are leading you to the center of the image, and in the center of the image is a nice well lit light with a lovely little eye light there, it's just really nice. But yeah, you see it a lot in art, like the Mona Lisa. The eye that you're drawn to is the one right down the middle. So it's a really sad day if I take a photo like this, but miss focus on that eye, but it's on this eye. Maybe not when our head is turned all the way around, but I've taken photos like this, where the focus is more on the other eye. But and it's so slight, like you still can say her entire face is in focus, but because this eye, sorry, is slightly less sharp, it just really annoys me, and I really hate it. Okay, yeah, I'm fairly happy with this, so I'm gonna move on. So this one, very different shot. She is in quite a lot of shadow here. We've probably lost all detail in the sky there. Let's just reduce it. No, not all detail. We still can get some blues back, but it's fairly unrealistic without some heavy editing. Just because of the difference between the light on her face, just the range is incredibly different. The stops between this and this, too different. So let's whack on Hector. Firstly, what I'm going to do straight away is get rid of some of this green, because I hate it. And it makes it kind of reddy in this image, which I quite like. Makes it feel very nice and warm. Did I whack on Hector? I did. I might try a few others. Maybe a bit of Fuji in there. Tell you what, let's leave it on Hector. I should have just done a little bit more like that. Bring down the highlights so you get a little bit of blue. You're not going to get a lot of it back. But the shadows a little bit. I played around with this image before I started this episode. And I got it to a point where I quite liked it, but I don't know how I got there. I'm just going to play around for a little bit. So yeah, this is where it starts to get difficult, but also quite fun. So my lens, which is a Carl Zeiss Luxia 50mm f2, handles... sorry, I just lost my train of thought. It handles glaring quite well. On a lot of other lenses, this would be very like apparent, and you wouldn't get much detail around it. But because of the T coating on there, it just handles it really well. Yeah, I can't imagine liking this image as much if it was taken on many other lenses, especially zoom lenses, where the flaring will be very like apparent. And I do know this shot was a little bit difficult because she is covering with her arm and her torso just enough of the sun to where I think the flaring is quite nice. I hesitate a little bit to call that nice. I do quite like it. I think it's interesting. She's covering it enough to the point where it looks nice, but it was very difficult. I think I got maybe like 10 shots from this same angle where it's just really ugly because the light is it's just very much. Because this is literally at the end of the day. Oh, I like how warm this gets. How it looks when it's warm, rather. This is at the end of the day. The sun is very low in the sky. That's another thing which I should have mentioned earlier as well. It's better to be shooting when the sun is lower in the sky, which is either going to be in the morning or in the evening, and that's known as golden hour. I'm sure you probably already know this, but I'm just saying for those who don't. Golden hour has become a little bit of a cliche time to be shooting at, but has a good reason, because it's flattering light. One, it's slightly warmer, and two, because it's lower in the sky, you get the light more level to their face. When it's noon and the sun is straight up in the sky, especially if it's harsh, it's beaming down on the person, and if you have very heavy brows like I do, the eyes are in complete shadow, and you get all these disgusting shadows everywhere, like the nose, and I'll talk a little bit about that later. The nose can create a lot of unflattering shadows. Like if the sun's over there, it's going to create a shadow like this across the face. It's not really nice. Just something for you to bear in mind with selfies. What do I want to do with this? Maybe up the vibrance a little bit. Yeah, why not? This one's tricky. This one's really tricky. It's not really the type of photo that I take too often. So I'm a bit out of my depth, to be honest with you. I've got it to a point where I'm fairly... I don't know what I did that for. I've got it to a point where I'm fairly happy. So I'm just going to leave that as is. Right, this next one. This is a model who I've met on Instagram called Jordan, and she is lovely. She's really great. I really enjoyed this shoot. It was a very short shoot. I can't remember what time we shot, but looking at her face, you can see the sun is quite high up in the sky because it's casting this shadow which is almost directly down. I think it was around 2-3 p.m, which is not the best time to shoot, but not the worst time to shoot. Ideally, if I could choose on a day like this where it's fairly sunny, you can see on this day there's a bit more clouds, but it's still fairly bright, and she is sweating a little bit. Sorry for pointing that out, Jordan, if you're watching. Yeah, it's a hot day. It's a bright day. I recall this day being very bright. So yeah, on a day like this where the clouds are moving fairly quickly and there's lots of big gaps, the sun's going to be dipping in and out, and you can be shooting and getting great shots in either scenario. You just need to know how to deal with it. And yeah, my least favorite thing with photographers are photographers who complain about this, because, you know, it's not worth complaining about. And you can get some really lovely scenarios like this and like this. I just think when it's bright, firstly for me, for someone who shoots primarily in the UK, it's a nice change. It really is. And it just gives you options. It just lets you play around, keeps you on your toes, keeps your brain working. I just love it. It's just nice. And also your model is warm, so you can, you know, actually take some shots without them wearing 700 layers. So what do I want to do here? Also, having a lot of light can give you more contrast, which is nice, because I think one thing I like to follow when I edit color, when I color grade and edit photos, is you want to be adding the least amount of contrast. You want to be, if you want contrast, you got to get it when you take the photo. Like you can take a really flat photo under overcast or like under a lot of trees, and everything's the same. You know, everything's just flat, and then you add a lot of contrast, and it just looks over-edited to me. Like I really don't like it. I just remembered this photo. I was just thinking to myself, I don't like this photo very much. Why did I add this to the collection? It's so I can demonstrate one thing that you can do. I'm just highlighting a problem here with shooting in bright sun, and that is she is squinting. She is struggling to look at the camera because, you know, it's very bright outside, and also you're getting a bit of shadow from her brows, and like I said earlier, the nose. It's just, you know, it's not ideal, it's not great, and these are subtle things that just make it look not too professional, not too nice. And one thing you can do is get them to tilt up towards the sun, and that will get rid of the shadows first of all, and make it a little bit more flattering, and maybe bring out the cheekbones and a jawline. But that brings up a new problem. They're going to be squinting even more. This is her looking at me away from the sun, which I'm guessing is up there. And you know, she's already squinting. So when she's facing the sun, she's going to be squinting even more. So what do? You make her close her eyes. That does limit you quite a bit, but that's one option that you could take, and that's an option that I did take. Did I take another one? What's this third one? Oh, I like that one more. Why did I include this one? Get rid of that. This one's great. I like this blade of grass here. It's, even though it's out of focus, it's subtle, and it's kind of creating a frame around her. And the look from the blah, 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 what am I saying? The texture I'm getting from the clouds is also kind of nice. So I'm gonna have to do a little bit of dodge. Just a little bit. I never increase it too much more than what it's already set to, which is a quarter of a stop. Again, this shadow is really annoying me, but I'm not going to fix it. I quite like the image. I just quite like her pose. I like the frame. I like the texture from the grass. I like the clouds. Forgot the word clouds there for a second. I think it's nice, and I don't mind this shadow too much. I like that her whole face is kind of, you know, being hit by the sun, and she looks like she's embracing the sun. I've done this as like similar, not overall pose, but just in terms of the face. I've done this quite a lot, where I've directed a model to face up towards the sun with her eyes closed. And I did it here again. Actually, I'm going to try something a bit different here. What do I want? Maybe some Fuji on there? Yeah, that's what I want. This is like a very editorial-esque shoot. I missed focus slightly on her face, but you don't even know that. It's not going to really know. It's not too noticeable. It's still usable, but it's just slightly annoying that she's a bit soft and this grass down here isn't. But I really love this image. Jordan was really great to work with. I really enjoyed working with her. She was really nice. It's nice when you meet someone and you connect with them on a shoot, and you're just able to like get their personality and kind of be able to work with that a bit more. It's just really nice. It's really nice, especially if they're also creative, because then it's easier to get into like a state where you're both, you know, working towards like a good goal, and not to say that. What am I trying to say? Not to say it's typical for a model not like to just trust you completely, and that's bad. But like when there's a trust, but also their mind understands kind of what you're going for. You get that a lot more with creative people. And yeah, I quite like this image. What does it need? I think it's a little bit too green, so let's bring it to the magenta, and that should make the sky pop a little bit more, in my opinion. I think I might have to come back to this one after taking a break. But I think overall, yeah, I quite like that. I really like that. Okay, let's move on. So these previous photos were all taken in Richmond Park, which is somewhere I've shot there loads of times. I've shot there so many times. It's my favourite park. For the same reasons I said at the beginning why I like shooting in nature. One, you get these beautiful fields full of long grass, and the grass does get longer. This is when it's been cut. Obviously not just before the photo, but you can get it to the point where it's like 6 foot high, and that's really nice. It changes every season. Like a few weeks before this photo was taken, this grass was green. It's crazy. And yeah, you just get a beautiful range of, you know, you get foresty areas, you get these like grasslands that kind of look like the Sahara, you get these beautiful logs, and it's very untouched. Like there's no fences, there's, you know, you see nothing. You can get these beautiful wide landscapes, these beautiful backdrops where there's no sign of human intervention, and it's just great. It's just what I really like. And I like this shot in particular just because she's wearing a very simple outfit and she looks very natural, and she's in a natural setting, and that to me is my favorite kind of just subject and location combination. So much so that I shot in the same park about a week or so later with a different model. So this is Nikita. You can find her Instagram and all of their Instagrams of all the subjects that I've shot in the bio. In the bio? I'm thinking Instagram. In the description of this video. Sorry if I'm stuttering and losing my train of thought a bit too much today. It's because I have to shoot these videos quite late because of my birds that are behind me. They're loud during the whole day, and it's not ideal if you have a lot of chirping in the background. I really enjoy living with the chirping of my birds, but I can understand that for a video it might be very annoying if you're trying to listen to me ramble about shooting and all you can hear in the background is just tweeting and chirping away. It's just not ideal. So I'm kind of set on Ektar, but I'm looking at other options just because I think I've already used Ektar like 4 times in this video, but I really love Ektar. I think just for the sake of something different, I might go with Agfa Portrait, warm. I think it's a bit, I don't know. It's tricky. So I'm trying to think. This was taken quite late in the day. I think around 6:30. Compared to, I think this looking at this, I don't like how magenta it is. A little bit less. This spot here is maybe, I think just over here. It's like the same area, but these are at very different times in the day. The sun is very high in the sky, as you can see by how the shadows are here, and here it's a lot lower, which is creating these. It's over to my left, so it's creating this shadow here, which is kind of nice, but kind of not nice, and it's just something you got to deal with. It's just something you have to work out. I might come back to that because there's this other angle with her hair up that I also like. I really like it because she's just chilling on a sofa. It looks like it's been, you know, a tough day at work, and I literally just synchronized the settings over from this image to that, and I love it already. Like, I don't think I have to touch that. The contrast is really nice. Again, also when it's lower in the sky, because the sun's coming from an angle, it's going for a lot more ozone, and it diffuses the light a lot more, so it's a lot less bright. And because of that, you can get away with them not squinting as much, and it's just a lot more flattering. It's a lot more flattering. The level of ozone as well also is what creates the warmth, I believe. I could be wrong. I am not a scientist. Yeah, I really like this pose. It is very, I normally shoot a lot of very like natural and neutral poses, but this I like this quite a lot. Might up the magenta a little bit. I love the texture of the clouds. Look at that. Again, also, the sun's very flattering, not just for people, but for clouds, because it's side on. You're getting this lovely little highlight, which you normally wouldn't get, because normally it would be way above the clouds. But because it's coming at a bit more of an angle, you're getting these really nice, and that's why sunsets are so popular for landscape photographers to shoot. Sunsets and sunrises, because of that. Because it hits things, it hits the trees in the background, it hits this lovely plant from the side and creates contrast. You see how this side is highlighted but this side isn't? It's just, you know, it's a beautiful thing. Let's move on. Here she is, lying in the grass. And because it's a lot less bright, I just sunk those over to see what would happen. A bit too bright. I really love these. I'm getting some like kind of speckly shadows on her face, which comes from this plant here, which I kind of dig. I kind of dig this. How was it done to that one? Okay. I really couldn't choose between these two images, but I also wanted to show you just this effect, this shadow here, created from the plant, which I kind of like. I would probably prefer it if it was covering her entire face, but at the time, I didn't like it so much, so I just asked her to raise her head a bit. Or did I ask her? Yeah, I asked her to crush the plant so it wasn't in her face. I always hate crushing plants, just so I can get in position or the model can get in their position without it being in the way. I've definitely done it for here. This is like a flower bed that I asked her to stand into in the middle of the park. This is like a garden. Like just beyond her here, just beyond Josie here, there's a path. And there's a path all around us. But like I said before, I don't like any signs, preferably if it's just nature with no signs of human structure or anything like that. I don't want to see any signs of society. So yeah, I went low so you wouldn't be able to see the park. Where were we? Nikita. She was also really great to shoot. She was really lovely, really creative. Yeah, I just felt like a good connection. And that is the best kind of shoots, really. She was just super nice. I love this image. Just gonna sharpen her whole body. And yeah, probably just leave it at that. I really like that. You see, if you think about these things when you're shooting, you don't have to fix it in post. Don't think that way. It's not good. So this one here is another photo that I've added purely because I wanted to highlight the nose shadow. You know, I asked her to move slightly, not just that. You can see this here, watch it, I moved as well. I moved around this way a lot more, asked her to just turn with me, and there is no shadow. The sun is very low in the sky, so we're not getting many shadow at all. And it just changes it up incredibly. Oh, that pops. That pops. It's very summery. Extremely summery. One thing that I'm a bit critical here is just my framing. It's not too center, is it? Not. Don't fix it in post. You know, sometimes I do it, but I don't ever go wild. Like, I never shoot a big wide shot and then crop in for a, you know. And I think it still works, but one thing I dislike about the Instagram crop here is it's cutting out the hand, but it doesn't kill the image. Is that something in her hair, or is that just her hair reflecting? That's just her hair reflecting light in a strange way. But no, I like that. I like that, but I like it more in its original aspect ratio. If I crop it from here, that keeps the hands in. So if I just crop it a little bit, so I don't want to lose that headroom. I think it's nice to have space around your subject. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the composition, but oh, she had a lovely smile. She had a really nice smile, really nice, like actual happy smile. I'm really tired of working with people. I'm very picky when it comes to smiles. If it's not a natural smile, it's not worth it. It's just so easy to tell. I think because of selfie culture, we're so used to seeing fake smiles, but like you can tell a real smile when you see one, and that's a real smile. People don't like real smiles when they take photos of themselves, when they take selfies, and that's because their eyes tend to close, and people often want their eyes to be visible. They don't like to be squinting, but that's just how a smile looks. A smile is not just your teeth or your lips. It's your entire face. It just expresses a lot of emotion. So I really love this image. She had a really lovely, happy face. And I've got 2 more photos here. I think I'm going to try to edit very quickly because my audio recorder is about to die. But again, this is later on in the day, obviously because these are the last 2 photos. So the sun's very low, it's just here. And it's about to duck behind these trees. And it's given a really lovely, again, the smile. Wonderful smile. It's given this really lovely glow to both her hair and these blades of grass behind her. This one I love. This one I love. I love this one. But it needs, because the sun is directly behind her, we're not getting too much light on her face, which is sad. I'm just going to add a little bit of a little dodge, just in the more shadowy areas. And I tend just to do it on the face. I am thinking maybe do it on her body here, just because it looks a bit unnatural if it's just the face, but especially with that one, I don't care. I don't mind. One thing you have to bear in mind as well, often the shadowed areas, so like in this case, you can see it's a little bit colder, a little bit less warm on her face than it is, you know, here. So you might want to bump it up a little bit. Not too much, but just a little bit. This one I love. I love this image. Makes me happy. Okay. So yeah, I'm fairly happy with all of these. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you learned a little bit about shooting in bright sun and things to look out for, and you know, I just hope that my rambles, you know, benefit someone else in some way or form. But I have been Ray Roberts. This has been Edit and Chill, and thank you very much for watching. Please do comment. Oh, also, the RAWs are available in the description below. Download them, but as always, don't fucking post them as if they're your own. You can tweet them to me at Ray Roberts Films, and I'll let you know what I think. So thank you very much, and have a good night. I'm gonna go sleep for a million years with my fan on, which I've had to turn off for this video. So I don't know, I'm probably glistening in this dark room under this very bright bulb. These are the things that I put up with just to film these episodes. Anyway, good night everyone.